episode 12 of the Woldenburn Podcast. My name is Emily, and I am so glad that you are here today. I fully intended to film at least one, if not two more podcast episodes in January. Oops. Hold on just a second. I've got to fix the window behind. Okay. That's better. It's a bit cloudy outside, so the sun's going to be in and out, so I feel like my light's going to be... But it is what it is. As I was saying, I fully intended to film more podcast episodes for January. However, I've not been feeling particularly well during January, so it didn't happen. I honestly did not do that much in the way of sewing or knitting, actually, either. But throughout the month of January, I was able to get some stuff done week to week. I wouldn't say that I necessarily did as much as I wanted to. That's for sure. But I did end up being able to finish a couple of things, and I've got a few projects to talk about. So, which reminds me, I completely forgot to grab one. So I'm going to go and do that, and then we are going to dive right in. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is my finished Ghyll sweater, which I am so in love with. This thing turned out beyond my wildest expectations. It fits like a dream. I've already worn it 2 or 3 times, and it is also, there's like construction work and stuff going on outside, so if you hear that, apologies. Anyway, it fits like an absolute dream. The length is perfect, the sleeves are perfect, like everything about it is amazing. And I'll try and pop a picture or two up here of me actually wearing the sweater so you can see how it looks and where it ends and whatnot, but I highly recommend this pattern. I'm tempted to make another one because I just love this one so much. Like, can you imagine this in like a beautiful cranberry burgundy red? Or like a heathered gray or a pink. I'm really feeling pink vibes right now. So part of that's because it is February, and while I don't typically do much for Valentine's Day, I love the excuse to wear everything pink and red and covered in hearts. Like, that makes me happy. Anyway, before I get too sidetracked, this is the Ghyll sweater pattern by Claire Walls of Flossy Knits, and I knit it out of some of my own hand-dyed yarn in this beautiful Hunter Forest moss green colorway. And this sweater, it's just a pullover with a nice crew neck. It has this beautiful cabling detail down the front, and then the rest of it is worked in, I believe it's either double or Irish moss stitch. I believe that's they're interchangeable terms. And then it is bound off. These sleeves are a little bit fuzzy. I think that's because I wear my watch on this hand and not on this one. Anyway, the sleeves are bound off with a tubular bind off. And then for the neckband, I did something a little bit different. I knit twice as much ribbing and then folded it over and stitched it down. And I absolutely love how it looks. Like, it looks so clean and neat and just looks so good. So that's finished object number 1, and I am in love with it. I really want to get a wiggle on and knit more sweaters because I always love having hand knit sweaters to wear, so I need to get better about that. But I've got to dig it out of one of my bags. I will say, these little tote bags that you can get, this one is one that my husband, Micah, he got it from Daunt Books in London when he was there a few years ago, and I've just kind of commandeered it. And then this is from my sister-in-law, and it's an Aveda. She used to work as a hairstylist at an Aveda salon, and so it's just an Aveda tote bag, and I love both of these. They're probably my primary project bags, if I'm honest. Back to what I was saying. Finished object. I finally finished my Regia socks. I started these Thanksgiving Day, I think, and I just, like I said, I haven't felt particularly well through the end of December and January, so they've definitely languished a bit, and I think I was working on my sweater and some other things. I just haven't really worked on them that much. So I had the first sock done for quite a while, and I finally was just like, you know what, this is ridiculous. Power through and get these silly things done. So they're done, which I'm very happy about. They're just a standard, or my standard. I use US size 1, 2.25 millimeter double pointed needles. I did a Tilly Buddies stretchy cast on, and then with 56 stitches, and then about 15 rows of ribbing, then just a vanilla sock, heel flap and gusset for the heel, and just a regular standard, I don't know what you call it, square toe, round toe, whatever it is, and then same for the second one. So those are done, and I have a decent amount of the yarn left, and this is what it looks like. It's a little bit limp, but I think I have enough of this to make a pair of shorty socks, which I probably will. I might have to do like a contrasting toe or contrasting heel, either of which would be fine. I have made a discovery though. I think when I first started knitting socks, I was 100% on the train of long socks. Like, I never wore short socks, and I just long socks all the way. And so that was all that I knit. And then I want to say a year or two ago, I made like my first pair of shorter socks. And I don't know, I started wearing a lot more short socks, because I think the reason why I had avoided short socks for so long was because I hate the no-show socks, which are like really, really short socks. They always, I don't know if it's something about the shape of my foot, they always seem to slip off, and I hate that. Like when you're wearing a shoe and you're walking and then like the sock ooches off of your heel and it's halfway up your foot and you're just like, pet peeve. So then I realized, like, the ones that I'm wearing today, you can knit them like the ankle socks. Ankle socks, like, they're a thing. And I realized that I think that I primarily wear ankle socks. I don't really wear tall socks anymore. And I also, I way prefer to knit ankle socks. I think part of that is because they're super fast and you can whip them up really quickly. I like the fit better. I just like everything else about them better. And so I think that's why those socks have taken so long, just because they're like twice the size of an ankle sock. I think it just felt like they were taking forever, and so they took forever. And I also, like I said, I did put them down. I was working on Christmas presents and whatnot, so they kind of got shuffled to the side. Next, we're going to talk about a whip that you guys have not seen in a while. And that is my, hold on, trash. They're my Yorkville socks that I am knitting out of, I always forget what it is. It's like Lion Brand Mani Petty, I think is what it's called. I think that's what it is. It was a discontinued yarn line, so it's not in existence anymore. Anyway, last time I talked about these socks, I think I was about here on the foot, and for the life of me, I could not figure out why these were taking so long. I was just like, why am I not working on these? And I realized that the reason why is because I hate it when I have to have a pattern that I'm following, and I have to have my phone, a tablet, or my laptop or computer, and I have to like sit there and have my computer open. It frustrates me no end. And so I realized, I was like, you silly goose. Just print out the stitch pattern on a piece of paper and have it in your bag, and you will finish these super quickly. And guess what? I've already finished the first sock, and I'm working on the leg of the second sock. So this was something I didn't completely realize about myself, which I feel like I should have by now, because I know that I always work on things faster if I have the pattern like right with me anytime I go to work on a project, rather than having to stop, get my laptop, or pull it up on my phone or whatever. I hate using my phone for knitting patterns. Yeah, it's too tiny. So I'm very pleased, because these have been languishing for months, and if you've watched my previous episodes, you know that this was a different sock entirely, and then I decided not to do that one and switch to this one. So I've knit this sock like almost twice, because I think I was about this far on the previous sock when I decided to rip it out and redo it with this pattern. And this is the Yorkville sock pattern by Mina Phillips of the Knitting Expat podcast. I'm really enjoying it. We're getting there. My toe on this one looks a little funny, and I'm not sure why. I think I might have gotten off on my bind off. I'm really looking forward to getting these done, and then I am hoping to cast on some shorty socks because I'm just itching. I'm itching to cast on shorty socks. But I'm trying to like stop myself from doing that and actually work on finishing both of these pairs of socks. So I finished the Reggio ones, and now I want to get these done. And then I will have no socks on my needles, and I can cast on all the socks that I want to cast on, which is going to be great. I also feel like I've been talking very quickly, so I'm like, I'm out of breath. So I'm going to try and like slow it down. Talk a little more slowly. So the next project we're going to talk about, I mentioned that I wanted to get cast on in the last episode, and I did go ahead and cast it on. Again, I haven't made much progress on it. I've been working on my socks and honestly just haven't done that much knitting overall, but it's cast on, so that's what counts. This is the very beginnings of my Corbell sweater, which is another pattern by Claire Walls of Flossy Knits. And I have knit the ribbing, and I have started into the cable stitch pattern, which you can kind of see. Again, I'm doing this out of my own hand-dyed yarn in this pretty blue, it's almost like a grayish navy. That's what I would call it, a gray navy. Because it's not a true gray and it's not a true navy, so it's kind of a mix between the two. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this one so far, but I wanted to just mainly show that I have cast it on. And if you're interested, I did decide that for the yarn that I was talking about using for a Lofoten sweater by Emily of the Blue Mouse Knits, I'm actually going to use that yarn and knit a So Faded sweater by Andrea Mowry, because I realized that if I have a pretty complicated sweater, which this one, it isn't complicated, but it has a lot of cabling, so there's a lot of detailing to it. If I have a complicated sweater like this on the go, I'm just like itching for a basic, simple, uncomplicated sweater, and I want to make one. And I realized that I was looking through my library on Ravelry, and I realized I've had the So Faded sweater pattern for a bit, and I realized like it'll be perfect. I can just knit that up. It's mostly stockinette. I think it's got a little bit of garter stitch on the arm to give it some detailing, but it'll be a really simple, easy pattern to do while I'm working on the Corbell sweater. So again, I'm hoping to get that cast on soon-ish so that I can have both sweaters on the go. I just feel the itch to knit some sweaters. So I'm hoping to like kind of up my sweater game this year, because I feel like last year I knit a lot of socks, and I wanna do more garments this year. I feel like my hand knit garment wardrobe could use some more garments. So I'm hoping to do some sweaters, maybe a cardigan, and we'll see where we go from there. But that's all I have to say about that one. The last knitting project to talk about is one that I just cast on. Has a little bit of a story behind it. So when Micah and I were first dating before we got married, he was talking about how he needed like a winter hat, basically, because he didn't have one and it was cold and whatnot. And so I decided to knit him a hat. So I knit it for him, and he loved it, and he's worn it consistently in the winter, like every single day for the past couple of years. And then a couple of weeks ago, we went to a birthday party at a roller skating rink, and somehow or the other, his hat has disappeared. We're pretty sure it got sadly abandoned at the roller skating rink. Like, he went back and looked for it and couldn't find it. So both of us were quite sad about it, because it was a good looking hat. Like, it looked really good on him, it fit really well, it did the job excellently. So what is a poor husband to do but to ask his wife to knit him another hat, which I'm working on. And it doesn't look like one right now. So far, for things like hats, I think it's just because I have the wrong needles. I don't love knitting them in the round, and I seem to have issues with that, and I think I just need to get some smaller circulars, which I saw some at Hobby Lobby the other day, which surprised me. I just need to get some smaller circulars and then I can do it in the round, but for right now I'm just doing it back and forth. And one of the big things that I wanted to do differently with this one is he'd mentioned a couple times that he wanted to be able to have the brim fold up so it was nice and extra cozy and warm. So that's why the ribbing is absolutely huge. And then I'm kind of sort of just making it up at this point, and I'm experimenting with how this moss stitch looks. I don't know that I love it, but I think it looks a little bit funny to do the moss stitch with the 2x2 ribbing that I've done. So I might rip it back again and do like a checkered pattern and do like a 2x2 moss stitch. I'm not sure. I think it just looks a little bit funny. I'm not in love with it. So we'll see. I might rip it out again. So I'm just working on this. This is honestly the thing I've knit on the most over the past week or so. And I'm knitting it out of actually 2 fingering weight yarns. I had scraps. I think the original hat that I knit was in this navy color. And so then I'm just combining it with a tweed, and these are my hand-dyed yarns again. So I'm just holding the fingering weight, both of these together. So I just hold it double like this, and it makes it really nice and squishy and cozy. I actually really, really like knitting with fingering weight yarn held together. It just has a different feel to it to like just DK or worsted weight yarn. And it just feels so squidgy and soft. It's just different. So anyway, I'm just working on knitting this, and then I started another hat for him. I'll go ahead and grab that really quickly. So I originally started knitting it in this, which is the leftover yarn from my Ghyll sweater, and I was following the pattern for it's like the basic ribbed beanie or something. And so I started working on it. It's 1x1 ribbing. And I just have a feeling that it's gonna be too loose. Michael likes his hats like nice and snug on his head. I do too. Like, I like my hats to be nice and snug. And that is one downside that I have noticed with hand knits, is that they don't have the same elasticity that like machine knit things do. And so I was working on this and I was just, I think it's gonna be too big. Like when I go like this, I just think it's going to be able to stretch out way too much, and it's just going to be so loose. And so I was kind of just like, and so I started the other one. And I'm going to come back to this one because I do want to make him a green hat. I think it would look great. He has red hair, and I think it will just go really well with his coloring. And then he can have a hat that matches my sweater. It's cute. And so I think what I'm going to do is just rip this out. I don't know. I have a feeling, and I'm going to trust that feeling and not knit a whole hat that's too big. So I will come back to this one, but I will probably finish the other one first because he needs a hat sooner rather than later. It's been very, very cold outside here the last few weeks with highs in the 30s Fahrenheit for like 2 or 3 weeks solid, getting down into the 20s or like 17 or 18 at night. So it's been very cold. But that is all that I have in the way of knitting. However, I did want to go ahead and show you the progress that I've made on the blanket that I am crocheting. And I don't remember where I was when I showed you last. I haven't done a ton of this again because this requires kind of sitting up and being able to crochet on it and not feeling well. So I haven't done a ton of work on it, but I have finished the first ball of yarn and I'm on to the second ball, and this is the Bernette blanket. It's not the Bernette blanket big or the Bernette blanket like Chanel or Velvet or anything like that. It's just the plain Bernette blanket, and it's very soft and squidgy, and I really, really like this color. It's such a pleasing, calming color. And it's so soft. I need to work on this. Maybe I'll work on this for a little bit today. We'll see. I have video editing to do. Hopefully I can get some more work done on this one and get it churned out because I love it. And it would be really nice if I could get it done before it, you know, is summertime. Says the girl that's took a year to knit the last 2 blankets that she made. Anyway, that is all that I have in the way of yarn stuff. I think there's a couple of things that I'm thinking about starting to work on, blankets and sweaters and things, but I haven't completely decided. They're still kind of going through my head, and I kind of want to work on some of these things first. So we will talk about those next time. But I have a little bit of sewing to show with you. Share with you. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Alright, so you may remember from the last time that I mentioned that I was wanting to get started on making a Jennifer Lauren handmade Asteria dress. And again, I haven't made a ton of progress on it, but I've been working on it little bit by little bit, and I have actually started. It looks like nothing. I have started working on my dress. So it is made out of this really pretty green flannel. It's a flannel shirting that I got from Joann's, I think 2 years ago. And I'm at the point where I just added the sleeves on this morning, and I just need to sew up the side seam. I got the facing onto the top. This is the bodice, if you weren't able to notice. Let me see if I can kind of sew sleeve. The front has buttons down the front and this really pretty square neckline. This is not going to look right over top of my dress. You can't see it anyway. But that kind of gives you an idea of what this is. So I'm working on it slowly but surely. Eventually I will get this done. Some of the hardest part is done. I just need to, I would say the hardest part is going to be, they're not hard, they're just annoying, like really annoying, is doing the buttons and the buttonholes. Keep thinking about doing snaps, but if I do snaps, I would want black snaps. And to get black snaps, I would have to order them online. And if I order them online, they're going to take a while to get here. And I have black buttons already, so that's why we're going with buttons. Once the bodice is done, that's the hard part. Like, the skirts are always super duper easy. So that's about all I have as far as sewing. I've been really wanting to make another Felicity dress. So we'll see. I might see about going with that. I've been watching a lot of Janelle of Rosary Apparel, her videos, and it's been making me want to sew something fierce, like just do all of the sewing and the pretty summer and spring dresses and all of that fun stuff, but it's winter time and I need to work on using the flannel fabrics that I have. So I'm having to restrain myself a little bit, but I think that I will probably work on a Felicity dress alongside of some of the flannel dresses that I want to make. We'll see what happens with that, if I can resist. I think that's about it as far as creative stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've done. Yeah, like I said, it's been kind of a light month. I haven't really felt up to doing much of anything. That's why there isn't a ton of progress on things. I got a book from the library yesterday that I'm pretty excited about. It's Hello Hexie. I'll pop a picture of it up here or here. It reminds me of the first book that I got when I was trying to learn how to do more crocheting. Up to that point, I'd really only done like the chains. My siblings and I, we all did just the chains. We didn't know how to do anything else with it. We just did super long chains and we would play with them, and they were like our ropes and stuff. But the first book that I really got from the library to learn how to do more crocheting stuff was a book that was something along the lines of 100 granny squares or something, and it was such a cool book. I kind of want to get it again. And it just had pages and pages and pages of different types of granny squares that you can do, and it was through that book that I learned how to properly hold the crochet hook and to make sure that you were doing things correctly and, you know, making granny squares and whatnot. super fascinating. That's kind of what got me into doing more crocheting. And this book is all about hexagons, which I love hexagons. I want to do some English paper piecing projects. I think that would be so cool. I just love how they look. So in this book, there is a cardigan pattern, and I'll probably take some B-roll and put a video up here of the cardigan, because it just looks so cozy. And I saw it and I was like, oh, I really want to make it. So that might be my first crocheted garment that I make, but we'll see. Some other things to work on, but man, I just kind of fell head over heels in love with that one. So we'll see with that. But I love it because it's got all types. It's got, I think, 10 different hexagon patterns, and then 10, or maybe it's a bit more than 10 different projects that you can make using hexagons. And it's so cool. It's so fascinating. I love it so much. So I think I might try and dive into that book and maybe just make some hexagon. I could make some coasters. That would be so fun and super easy. I might do that. I don't know if I have any cotton yarn though, which would be what I would want to make a coaster out of. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. I think that is about all that we're going to talk about today. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I'm going to go ahead and cut things off here. I could talk about books and things like that, but I have to get this video edited and I want to get this up like no later than tomorrow. So I want to go ahead and get it done. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to me chat about all these projects. I would love to know what you've been working on, and if you have any projects or patterns and things that you really want to start. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one. Hopefully it's not another month from now. Hopefully I will feel better and be able to do another one in a couple weeks. We will see. Anyway, thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.